Hello, programmers. Look at all the change I have. I want you to write a program that's going to input the number of nickels and dimes and quarters and figure out the total. The best part is you get to write this program all on your own, but you get to use the Paycheck program as a reference. You can use the Mac or PC. You can even use the online compiler. The video is divided into several sections to cover the coin counting project. The video discusses project definition, how to develop an algorithm. We will review the Paycheck project, develop some test data, and test the program, and document the project, the lab report. I suggest that you create a new folder on your computer or storage device for the Counting Change project. You can call your project Counting Change, Total of Coins, Coin Counter. You can choose any name you wish, but make sure you do not use any spaces in your project name. Here is the project definition. Write a program that counts change. The program should ask for the number of quarters, the number of dimes, the number of nickels, and the number of pennies. Then the program should tell the user how much money there is expressed in dollars. You must use constants for the values of each coin type and display a title at the top of the screen when the program first runs. The first thing you should do when you are given a programming task is to figure out what the output should look like. Draw it out on paper. As the project progresses, don't worry if the actual program output does not look exactly like your original plan. Plans change. Put a title on the top of the output display that identifies your name and the program, followed by a blank line. Your program does not need to display anything in colors. I'm only using red on my program outline to highlight the user inputs. These values are to be read from the keyboard when the program runs, instead of being displayed as part of the prompt messages. When all of the inputs are read, display another blank line and then the total of all the coins in dollars. Let's see how the program looks when it is run. There is the title line at the top of the display. I'm going to input 17 quarters, 23 dimes, 9 nickels, and 15 pennies. The program shows me that I have $7.15. Your program should look something like this when it runs. The text of your program does not need to look exactly like mine. Instead of a prompt message that looks like, "How many quarters do you have?" your program could say, "Number of quarters," or "Input the number of quarters." The output could even say, "You have," and then how much money, instead of "Your total is." Feel free to customize the text that is displayed, but be polite. In a hierarchy input process output chart, also called a hypochart, we need to define the inputs and the output. Once we know the inputs and the outputs, we then need to decide how to get from the input all the way to the output. We're going to read the number of quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies, compute the total of all the coins, and then display that value on the screen. This program is only using numeric data for the number of coins, their values, and total value of all the coins. We need to choose which of the numeric data types to use in the program. The int data type can only be used for whole numbers. The int data type is a great choice for the number of each coin type. We can't input half of a quarter or even a penny, but we will need to use the double type later for the value of each coin and the total value of all the coins expressed in dollars. If we define int variables for quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies, then the total can be computed as total equal quarters times 0.25 plus dimes times 0.10 plus nickels times 0.05 plus pennies times 0.01. Part of the project definition states that a constant must be used for the coin values. In that case, we need to define a constant for the value of quarters, etc. Total equal quarters times quarter underscore value plus dimes times dime underscore value, etc. Note, since the statement does not end until the semicolon is reached, the statement can cover more than one line. I'm now going to review the Paycheck program. You can use this program as a reference when you develop the Counting Change program. Choose to do this project, use either the C language or C++. You can get the source code for the Paycheck program in either C or C++ from the class website. If the text is too small on this slide, don't worry about reading it yet. I will zoom in for different parts during the discussion. The title block at the top of the program file uses the C language style comments, starting with a /* and ending with a */. The comment block identifies what is in the file as well as the inputs and outputs. Some companies want the programmer's name in the title block, others don't. I want your name in the title block, and I will look for it when I grade your projects. Although not shown here, another couple of things that are usually placed in the title block are the version number and the date. This can help determine the latest version of the code when there are multiple files that are not the same. The #include statements bring additional code that helps the compiler build your program. Look carefully. There's no semicolon at the end of the #include statement. Some other programming languages use the word import or imports instead of #include. The C program uses the #include stdio.h command to provide access for console input and output functions scanf and printf. The keyboard and display are the console. The C++ version of the program uses #include iostream to give access to the console through cout and cin. The #include iomanip gives access to the set ios flags and set precision at the end of the program to make a display with 2 digits past the decimal. Using namespace std, makes the coding much easier. Otherwise, we would need to type std : in front of each cout, cin, and some other commands. There is a semicolon at the end of using namespace standard. The #define statement is a preprocessor directive that can be used in C to define constants. It causes a text replacement while the program is being compiled. This would be similar to the find and replace feature in a word processor. Anywhere that the characters overtime rate appear in the program, they would be replaced with the characters 1.5. Because the #define is a text replacement, it is important that neither the equal sign nor the semicolon character are used in the #define statement. Otherwise, those extra characters would also be added into the program before it is compiled. Although not required, it is common practice to use all uppercase characters and the underscore when defining constants. This helps make them easier to recognize when looking at the code later. Compare the differences in how C and C++ declare a constant. Instead of a text replacement, we are actually creating data with its associated data type and using the equal sign to assign it to a value. The semicolon is used at the end of the assignment statement. By using const double overtime underscore rate equals 1.5 , we now have the value 1.5 stored in memory. The Paycheck program is using the double data type for all of its variables. This is the place in the Counting Change program where you need to define the int variables for the quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. You also need to define a double for the total. C programs use the printf statement to output to the console screen, and scanf or scanf_s to read from the console keyboard. C++ programs use cout to output to the console screen and cin to read from the console keyboard. The first parameter in a call to scanf is the format string. It is surrounded by double quotes. The format string tells scanf what type of data is expected to be typed at the console. The Paycheck program is using quote %lf quote because it is expecting data that may have digits past the decimal, and the data is going to be stored in a variable whose data type is double, also known as long float. Assuming that quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies are declared as type int, then use %d inside the scanf format string instead of %lf. The computations for the total value of all coins is much easier than the computation in the paycheck program. All you need to do is to add up the number of each coin times its value and save it in the total. Review the C and C++ paycheck programs and how they display the paycheck with 2 decimal places. You only need a blank line before displaying the total. 2 new line commands, \n, create a blank line before a C program closes. When writing a C++ program, make sure you type the last letter of ENDL as a lowercase l, because the ENDL means end of line. Using ENDL twice moves the cursor down 2 lines. Here are the values for the number of quarters, dimes, and nickels and pennies that I have chosen. I want you to choose different values. The first 2 rows should work okay. I want you to test the program when at least one of the values entered is 0. Although we have not covered how to process unexpected inputs yet, I want you to test the program and find out what happens if either nothing is entered or letters are entered for nickels. Project documentation and lab report. Complete and submit the lab report. Congratulations on completing the first C or C++ program that you have written on your own. I look forward to seeing you in the next module. Bye-bye for now.